Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday, and thank you for joining us for today's Spark webinar at CourtReserve. I'm Kim with the product team. I am joined today by my partners, Josh Willey, Matt Criswell. I've got two awesome product owners also on QA, Josh and Aaron. Thank you guys all for being here today. And so today we're gonna talk to you guys about getting ready for 2026. These are going to be tips and tricks about, maybe how to close out 2025, get your system ready for 2026, housekeeping things, stuff like that, just to kind of help you all get set up and ready for the new year. So really excited to give you all this information today. We've met with a lot of our CS people and those folks just to make sure we're getting you guys, answering a lot of the common questions that come into CS. So we're excited to get started today. All right, just a couple of things before we jump in. We wanted to remind everybody that there is another Club Pickleball Mastermind coming up in a couple of weeks in December. If you haven't been to Club Pickleball USA's Mastermind, Devin and his team have done an amazing job and really honing in on the things that you should know in the pickleball space. And then you get a monthly call after that where you can kind of meet and talk to other industry professionals within the pickleball space and facilitate things and stuff like that. So definitely give Devin a look if you're interested in joining. I believe Josh is going to throw that link in the chat as well. So you have that link, but it's clubpickleballmastermind.com/book-call. So definitely give Devin a ring if you're interested in joining. And then don't forget, CourtReserve is going to be out and about this fall in December, November, December. So we've got a bunch of events that we are scheduled to be at. We would love to see you. So if you see that CourtReserve booth, please come and give us a hey. We love to take pictures, post them on social media, and just meet you and hear about your club and how you're doing. All right, and then lastly, before we get started and jump right in, we've got one more webinar on the schedule for 2025. We're going to do it on December 4th at 12 o'clock Eastern about building newsletters and emails. And so we're going to actually have Michelle, who is on our team, and she's actually the marketing person for Old Coast Pickleball, Tim and Ashley's facility in St. Augustine. And so she's going to take us through a lot of the tips and tricks for building successful email campaigns in CourtReserve. And Josh, I believe you're also going to join that call as well and kind of go through some of the new bells and whistles of the email suite that we have in beta, right?
Yes, I will. Very
Awesome.
excited.
Yeah, that's going to be a great webinar. The whole new email suite is just amazing. And every time we look at it, we get so excited. So that'll be a really great webinar. If you are interested in joining that, please go to courtreserve.com/webinars and you can register via the link that we have there. All right.
Awesome.
Well,
All right.
without further ado, Josh, you're going to get us kicked off. And just some reminders for everyone as we're going through these. If you have questions, please post them in the Q&A section. If you go to your Zoom toolbar, there is a Q&A button. We really would like you to post those in the Q&A. We don't have a way of getting the chat questions after, and we like to go through and make sure everybody's questions were answered. So if you could just make sure that you're putting those questions in the Q&A, our moderating team in the back will mark them for answering live, and we might just answer some of those questions via typing to them to you as well. All right. All right. I'm going to let you
Awesome.
get started, Josh, and let's get going.
All right, let's get started. So the first section that I am going to be going over today is going to be memberships, whether we are updating our membership pricing or maybe we are transitioning out of 2025 memberships and trying to allow players to pre-purchase into a 2026 membership. I'm going to try to go over some different scenarios with some different membership structures. And specifically in those structures, I mean different frequency options that you may be offering for your memberships. So first, I'm kind of going to go over one of the more simple scenarios. Let's say we have a recurring membership. So a membership under a monthly, quarterly, custom, or yearly frequency. And it kind of just continues to roll into each year. It doesn't have a hard start date or end date to it, but maybe we just want to update our membership pricing as this new year is approaching. I'm going to take a look at this recurring yearly membership that I have, and I'm going to focus in on the membership price tab. So this is going to be where we can update our pricing for a current membership that we currently have in the system. And the main setting that we want to take a look at here is going to be the update existing memberships checkbox. We really have two paths that we can go here when we are updating our membership pricing for the next year. We can either update the pricing for all current players and all players moving forward, or we can allow players that have purchased this membership under old pricing to continue to have that old price. And we can only have this change to the price update for existing or for new players that purchase this membership moving forward. So if we go into a membership and let's say we're going to be changing the price to $160 a year rather than $120, if we check this checkbox here, this is also going to change the price to $160 for all current players that have already purchased this membership. But if we want to allow current players to keep their current price and only have this update affect new players purchasing this membership, we can uncheck the update existing memberships checkbox when we are saving this change. An important thing to remember here when we are updating our membership pricing, if we do want to update existing memberships pricing, we'll want to make sure we make this change prior to the 2026 billing cycle being posted on the player's account. This change here is only going to affect future billing cycles that are posted. So if the 2026 billing cycle has already posted by the time we make this change, it's not going to impact a fee that has already been created and posted on the player's account. So when we are making this change, we also want to consider the X days before billing date to generate next billing cycle, since this setting here is going to impact how early that next billing cycle would post on a player's account. So for example, if I have this set to 5 days, I don't want to go in 2 days before January 1st and make this pricing change, because at that point, we already have all of our players' billing cycles getting posted 5 days in advance. So that means the billing cycle for 2026 is already on the player's account. So this pricing change would not impact those billing cycles that were already posted. So we just want to make sure if we are going to be making a price change that is going to impact current customers, that we are making sure we do this far enough in advance that we are doing it before the billing cycle actually gets posted for 2026. Now, a few additional settings here that I do also want to point out while we're on the membership price tab. We do have this X days past due to expire membership. And this is going to be a great way for us to give a little time window where the player can be past due, but they can still be under an active status. So that way they have a little bit of time to pay for their membership dues, even if they are a little bit past their billing date. Another thing that I want to point out here is the X days past due to auto cancel membership. So maybe we want to give the player this 7-day window past their next billing date to pay for that membership without it actually moving them into an expired status. But maybe if they haven't paid for their membership in 30 days, we want to go ahead and just cancel this membership for the player since they are not utilizing it. Another great next step here with the auto cancel membership setting is we also have the ability to auto reassign a new membership to this player when they get auto canceled. So maybe we want to auto cancel them out of this paid membership, but we don't want to leave them hanging and just have no membership on their account. But we want to reassign them maybe to our guest or our non-member or any free membership option that we have in our organization. That way, even if the player loses their paid membership, they're still under this, free, more limited option, and they still have a little bit of access into your organization. That way, if they go back in a few months into 2026, they still have a free membership here that's giving them a little bit of access to booking a court or booking for or registering for an event, for example. So those are the main things that I wanted to touch on for this recurring membership that doesn't really have a strict start date or end date. The next scenario I'm kind of going to go over here is if we want to maybe set up a membership that is no longer going to transition into 2026. So maybe we sort of want to deactivate this membership and no longer make it an available option as we're approaching 2026. Before I do that, are there any questions in the Q&A that I'm missing here?
Yeah, Josh, I'm wondering if you can answer this question. But how would you update a billing cycle or a billing cycle date if you were going to change those?
So would this be for if we are trying to update the next billing date? Let's see
Uh,
here.
let's see. The question specifically says this might be next, but how do you update billing cycle dates if we're going to change them? So that's
Okay. So there's going to be a few ways that we can mass update next billing dates, which I will touch on a little bit later. We do
okay.
have a mass update tool where you can go in and you can mass update the next billing date for a membership type. So
Okay.
we
That
can
might be
definitely
the
touch on that.
scenario. They just responded and said it's our second year and we want to move the date to January 1st. So we can hit that a little
Got
bit
it.
later on with the mass updates then.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, once we get to the mass updates, I'll make sure we touch on the update to next billing date for sure.
All right. And here's another good question about this page, I think. If a membership is paused due to injury or miscellaneous reasons, like it's suspended or something, would changes be made on this screen?
So there really aren't any settings here that you can set up related to the suspension of a membership. Once a player's membership has been suspended, it's going to stay in that suspended state until an admin goes in and they manually reactivate that membership. So we don't need to worry about them being auto canceled or anything like that if they're in a suspended state. They'll just stay in that suspended state until an admin reactivates them.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. Well, that's all we've got for now. If you want to keep going.
Awesome. All right. Yeah. So the next scenario I'll go over is maybe we had this membership in 2025 and we are trying to transition out of it as we approach 2026. Maybe we have a new membership structure. Maybe we have some new membership types that we've already created. Let's just kind of go over how do we transition out of a membership as we approach the new year. So, really, the main settings we need to look at are going to be on the general tab here. And the two settings that we really want to focus in on are going to be the membership purchase end date and then also the membership end date. I'll kind of go over start dates and end dates and look at all four of these date pickers in more detail in the scenario after this. But when we're talking about just transitioning out of a membership before we get to 2026, one, we'll want to make sure that we're no longer allowing a player to purchase this membership from the member portal. And that's going to be what the membership purchase start and end date pickers will allow us to do. These settings don't actually impact the active period of the membership. They just impact the visibility of this membership on the member portal for a player to purchase it. So if we are no longer offering this membership in 2026, that means we want to eventually no longer show this membership as an option on the member portal for a player to purchase. So as an example here, I'll keep the date simple. Let's just say December 1st, we're going to no longer show this membership as an option. So that way there aren't any new players that are purchasing this membership. This is going to be how we can do that. Now, if we actually want to update the active period of this membership and we actually want to go in and cancel this membership at a membership type level, that's going to be when we want to take a look at the membership end date. Now, something that's important to think of here when we are setting a membership end date is when we are setting an end date here, the membership is going to cancel at the start of the day that we are selecting here. So if we want a player to have an active membership for the entire day of December 31st, we will want an end date of January 1st, 2026 here. And that way, at the start of January 1st, 2026, this membership gets canceled from the player's account. Now, an update that we did make here a few months ago that I do want to point out. A few months ago, we added this update existing membership end dates checkbox. So if you ever are updating an end date on a membership type, let's say maybe we didn't have an end date initially, or maybe we put an end date and we actually need to adjust it since we're getting closer to this end date period. From this page, you're now going to be able to update any player that currently has this membership and you can choose when their end date is going to be. So that's going to save a lot of time there. Previously, support and our dev team would need to get involved there if we were doing, a mass cancellation date there. So we have given admins the power to be able to do that. Of course, this does impact a membership's end date. So, always be careful when we are adjusting this here, because if, for example, we add the current date as the end date, that would cancel the membership for everybody. So make sure you're definitely selecting the right date there, especially if it's kind of close to the current day, especially when we're using the update existing membership end dates checkbox. Awesome. So that kind of goes over transitioning out of a membership that we no longer want to offer. The next scenario that I really want to go over here is if we are maybe setting up our memberships so that they are specific to the calendar year. And what I mean by that is maybe we are setting up a 2026 membership and we don't want there to be any type of recurring billing cycle that posts past 2026. So we kind of want a process where the player manually goes in and purchases or pre-purchases a 2026 membership, and then we kind of want them to do that same process once 2027 comes around. In any case where we really do not want any billing cycle to recur and just continue to post on a player's account, we will want to use the one-time price frequency. The one-time price frequency is going to make sure that the player only gets one billing cycle for this membership, which is great in that case. But if we are setting it up this way, then that means we really need to consider our membership purchase and our membership start and end dates when we are setting up this membership and making it available for players to purchase. So in the case where we have a one-time price membership, if we go to the general tab, now we're starting to think about allowing players to pre-purchase this membership. So if this is a 2026 membership, maybe we want to allow players to begin purchasing this membership on December 1st of 2025. That's where the membership purchase start date is going to come into play. So if we want to make this membership visible as an option to purchase for the player on a specific date, that's when we want to pick the membership purchase start date here. And if we're sort of following that same structure, I have a membership purchase end date here of December 1st, 2026, since that would be the time that we would eventually open our 2027 membership. Now, when we go down to the membership start and end date here, since this is a one-time price membership, there's not going to be any recurring billing cycle that post here. So for that one billing cycle that the player pays, they're going to have the active period that we select here for this membership type. So here I have a start date of January 1st, 2026 and an end date of January 1st, 2027. One thing that I do want to point out here is the player does need to have an active membership on their account in order to book a court and register into an event. So if you want to open your 2026 events prior to January 1st and allow players to start registering into them, let's say December 22nd, we really do want to consider that when we are setting up the membership start date here, because again, the player does need to be in an active membership in order to successfully register or book a court, even if it's for a date, in 2026. All right. Are there any questions so far? I see we may have one question here. Is there a membership type that allows us to charge a membership yearly, bill once a year, and the player will be charged at a pay-as-you-go basis? Right now, we do not have a way to do that. Kind of sounds like almost like a payment plan or some way to break up that yearly billing cycles membership dues. Right now, we don't have a way to do that. The player would have to fully pay for those membership dues in order for the player to be active in that billing cycle. All right. And then another question. If a 13-month package was purchased, would you extend the end date for end of 13th month? So let's take a look here. You could do that. Another option here, if you did want it to be, a recurring membership where, another billing cycle would generate 13 months from the start of the membership. You could also use the custom frequency, because when you are using the custom frequency, you get to choose how many months are in this billing cycle that are created for this membership. So if you wanted it to be a recurring membership and you wanted billing cycles to continue posting on the players' accounts as their 13-month billing cycle, finishes up, you could do the custom frequency. If you didn't want any type of billing cycle to recur and you just wanted one billing cycle for the 13-month period, and then you wanted the player to purchase a new membership after that 13-month period is over, you could do a one-time price membership and just set those strict start and end dates. So it would depend on the specifics of that membership, but there would be a few different ways that you could go about that. Awesome. All right. So that goes over the main scenarios that I wanted to touch on. So the last thing I'll go over are our different mass update tools. Some of them admins are able to do themselves. Some of them you do need to reach out to our support team, and our support team will need to handle for you. But I do want to point them out. So under members on the sidebar, we have a more actions menu here. And on the bottom of that menu, we're going to have this mass update option. So this is going to be helpful if maybe we are needing to make some changes to players that currently have a membership type that we are using. An example that was brought up earlier was the next billing date. We do have a way to mass update next billing dates. And when you're on the mass update page, you are able to use a few different filters here. So you can filter by membership types, membership frequencies. You can filter by next billing date when we are pulling up the list of players that actually would get mass updated here. So this is going to be a great tool if we need to extend the next billing date for players. One thing that I will call out here, you cannot change a mass, or you can't change a next billing date to a date that has already been paid for in the player's current membership. So if I have paid for a billing cycle and that billing cycle ends on January 1st, 2026, you wouldn't be able to change my next billing date to a date in December of 2025 because I've already paid for that billing period. So this tool is really here for us to just extend out the next billing date if we ever need to do that for any reason. The other option that admins are able to do is to update membership price. So this is another way that we can go about updating membership price here. The one benefit to the mass update page is, again, we have these filters. So we can filter players that have a membership price that is less than X amount, for example, and we can say that, if you're under our premium membership and you got it when the membership price was less than $120, in that case, we're going to bump you up to 130, for example. So you have a little bit more flexibility here on this mass update page when it comes to choosing who you want to actually have affected from this mass update. Now, the two actions that you would need to reach out to our support team to assist you on are going to be the mass cancellation of memberships and also the mass change or assignment of memberships. And that's just because that can make a really big impact for current accounts. So you do have to reach out to our support team, let us know what your scenario is, just so we can better understand what exactly needs to happen here. And then our support team will be the ones that are doing the mass update, just so that we can make sure we know the best way to give you that final solution that you are looking for. So that goes over all of the different mass update tools that we have related to memberships. It doesn't look like we have any questions in the Q&A. So I think we're good on memberships for now. So I'm going to transition over into some tips and tricks for financial reporting, and just some key reports to focus in on. I'm going to get us started here, and then I'm going to pass us over to Matt, who is our financial product owner on our team. The one report that I'm going to touch on is going to be under transactions on the sidebar, and it's going to be our sales summary, which is really one of the powerhouses of our financial reporting in CourtReserve. And the reason for that is because, one, we have different preset filters here for this report. And two of the key preset filters that we have are going to be cash basis and accrual basis. So you do have that ability to change how revenue is going to be recognized on this report based on either cash basis or accrual basis accounting. But then in addition to that, we also have different output types. So based on the filters and the parameters that we set on this report, we also have different ways that we can break down and organize the information that we are taking a look at. So I'm going to touch on the different output types that we have for the sales summary, just kind of go over the differences you're going to see between them all, and then I'm going to pass us over to Matt. So for the first output type, we have the summary output type. And really how this is going to be broken down is by our different fee categories that we have in CourtReserve. And really, when you think of fee categories, you can think of the different services that you may be providing inside of CourtReserve. So membership fees, events, reservations, point of sale. But then in addition to that, we have this menu that you can expand and you can actually look at the revenue that is recognized for each type or category within that fee category. So, for example, if we're looking at reservation types, we can look at how much revenue was recognized for each of those different reservation types that we have in our organization. The next option that we have is going to be our detail output type. This is really going to be the transaction by transaction breakdown that we are seeing based on the time period and the filters that we have set here. So if we are maybe trying to get a transaction by transaction breakdown of this time period and then get that exported, this would be a great output type to use in order to get that Excel file that's just a transaction by transaction breakdown. We also have our revenue categories output type if you are using the revenue categories tool in CourtReserve. This is really just a way for you to see all of those different totals for each revenue category that you have in your organization. We do also have an unassigned category if there's any revenue that was recognized for a service that doesn't have a revenue category linked to it. So this is a good way to take a look at maybe those specific services you have in the system that maybe we accidentally forgot to put a revenue category on. So that's a great way to use this output type. We do also have our sales tax output type as well. This is a great way for us to see how much revenue was recognized for our exempt sales versus our taxable sales. We can also get the amounts for the specific tax rates that we have in our organization if we have multiple for any reason. And then we're also going to be able to see the gross sales and the net sales broken down in this output type as well. And then for the last two output types, we're going to have the revenue by payment type. So we can see how much revenue was recognized based off of our payments. And then on top of that, based on the different payment types that we are using inside of CourtReserve. So that way we can get that breakdown by those different payment methods. And then lastly, we have an output type for our fee categories, which is similar to our summary output type, but is going to be a little bit more high level. So here, for example, we're just looking at total revenue that was recognized in membership fees, but we don't have a way to, break it down by specific membership type. So this is going to be more of a high level output type for you. All right, so that goes over all of the different output types for the sales summary. I'm going to pass us over to Matt. He's going to go over some different reports that are going to be helpful for you for the end of the year. All right, let me stop sharing my screen.
All right. Thank you, Josh. Great stuff there. Okay. Hello, everyone. So, as Josh mentioned, I'm going to take a few minutes to talk through some of the end of year cleanup items that we recommend. You can think of these as a few simple housekeeping steps to help you close out 2025 cleanly and set yourself up well to start out the new year. Now, I know there's a lot of things we want to get through in this webinar, so I'm going to hit some of these rather quickly, but we'll also be checking the questions if anything comes up in Q&A. So I'm going to start by looking at the refunds page under transactions. And as you get towards the end of the year, I think it's a good idea to start reviewing any pending refunds to make sure that there's nothing left hanging. Even if you already check these periodically, it might be good to take a few minutes at the end of the year to go through this list, resolve any refunds that are still pending, mark them as either accepted or refused. Staying on top of this and cleaning it up at the end of the year will help just make sure that your refunds and their related fees are both recorded in the same period. So then once that's done, I'd recommend moving over to the aged fees report. Now this report will show all of the aged unpaid fees for members. And this is an as of the day you run it report, so you can't change, you can't look backwards. Like if you were in January, you couldn't go back and see what it was at December 31st, but you can look at it on the day of, check to see what your unpaid fees are by member, and you can even filter this if you wanted to see just everyone that's over 60 days outstanding. This will give you a good opportunity to review those members, reach out to them, try to collect payment where you can. And then also, if there's fees that you know likely won't be collected, you can void those or write those off. So they're off your books and you're starting off the year with a clean start. Also, another step that we like to look to once refunds and age fees are cleaned up are looking at batch billing. Now, for clubs that do use this feature, you know, batch billing will allow you to generate invoices for members and include all the unpaid fees up until a specified date. So what we would recommend here as a good practice is to run a batch and include everything through the end of the year. Um, so you would run this in January, but you can specify the date either based on the transaction date, the reservation date, or you could do both. Um, and that way, you know that you've got your invoices out and captured for everything up through the end of the year. This is an easy way to have that clean end of year cutoff and ensure that future invoice batches would only include fees that are related to 2026. So those are just kind of some of the key housekeeping items that we recommend taking a look through. I do want to touch briefly on a report that I think is helpful when preparing to meet with either your CPA or your accounting firm. So Josh spoke on the sales summary report, which is certainly an important and necessary report to have for those meetings. But I would also recommend taking a look at the transaction list. And this report is essentially a detailed ledger of every transaction that's occurred at your club during the specific time period. So the good thing about this one is that you can run the report for the full year. You can filter it, sort it, you can export it as needed, which makes it really useful when your accountant or CPA asks for additional documentation during tax time. We all know that accountants and CPAs love to ask questions, so we want to be prepared for all of those. And we are adding some additional functionality to this report or just some more information like that should be coming out before the end of the year. So like GL codes should show up here as well as a few other things to help you organize and sort that information a little bit better. But this report is basically all the raw financial data in one place and being able to organize it by either category or date or member really makes preparing for those meetings and tax season a little bit easier on you. And then the last thing I'll say, just as kind of a year-end tip that I like to do for using these reports, such as the sales summary or transaction list, is just to take a look at your club's overall performance for the year. You may already be doing this quarterly or monthly, but the year end is a great time just to take a step back and see how you did. You can pull up a sales summary for 2025 as well as 2024 or prior year and just compare those reports year to year. And with that comparison, and depending on how your information is organized, it can help identify trends or see, where did your club grow this year? What programs or revenue categories perform best? Are there any areas that you could use for more focus or support in the future, for example? So really the goal with these reports are just meant to help give you insights that you need to make informed decisions as you plan for next year and also allow you to use the financial data to really understand how your club is operating. And yeah, that's it from me. I think Kim, we're
All
headed to
right.
you.
Let me just take a look at the questions here
Sure, yeah.
to see if there's anything that we can answer live.
There was one question here that I think is a good one to call out. So if I have the wrong revenue category for an item for half of the year, is there an easy way to fix that in one batch fix? So when you're editing revenue categories, it is going to retroactively move any fees from that specific service or reservation type or event category into that revenue category for you. So you shouldn't have to do any manual work if there were any services that accidentally did not have a revenue category assigned to them. Once you actually assign that revenue category to that specific service, it should adjust all of those previous fees so they fit the right category.
Awesome. Well, thank you for answering that one live. All right, I'm gonna jump in, you guys. Aaron, if you wanna, or Matt, if you wanna stop sharing your screen, I will go ahead and add mine up here to the mix. All right. So we've talked about memberships, we've talked about financial reporting. Now let's talk about some of the day-to-day operations for getting ready for 2026. So the first thing we're going to talk about is your court costs. So court costs are always a big hot topic in CourtReserve just because court costs can get really complicated. So let's talk about just kind of updating your court costs and where you would go to do that. So on the left navigation of your admin side, you're going to want to click settings. And then we have this booking settings row here where your court costs live. So on my costs tab, you can see my structure of I have 3 court types and I have pricing for each of the different court types. Now you can update these by membership type. So I can say my free player is going to be one rate while my all access gold is going to be another. So you can do these. You can update these individually by membership type. Now, just keep in mind that these costs right here that you see on this table are going to update in real time. So we do have kind of one tip I want to share with you. If you are looking at just updating a specific court cost to start in 2026, a good way to do that is with your custom court costs. So while we don't have really a dynamic pricing to say on this date, set all of my pricing to be this kind of a thing. We do have a way in custom court costs where you can set up a custom court cost. And what I would do is basically think of this as like a placeholder. So when your members are going to start booking for that January 1st date, set up a custom cost that's maybe just going to be a temporary cost that is associated with this court type or with this reservation type. That will give you time. So when that date happens, they're going to be charged the appropriate price. And then once you get to January 1st, you can go back to your court costs table and update all of your pricing for being effective in 2026. And then once you've done that after the new year is started, you can then remove that custom court cost that maybe you set up on this page. So if I want to maybe set, as you can see here, I already have one set for my 2026 hard courts. So what I did was I created a custom court cost for 2026 hard courts with the hard court, my tennis court, and then making sure every day of the week from January 1st, 2026 to even just giving myself a buffer of a month to do it. But if it were me as an admin, I would come in on January 1st or 2nd and update it after it's already, I'm already in the new year. But anyway, so if we want to set up this for a different court type, we would come in here, 26, let's say clay court, and then I would make it effective for my clay courts and then set that date range to be from January 1st to January 31st. And that way, again, once people start booking on this date, they're going to get the appropriate rate that I'm setting for 2026. And then it's saved in the system. Now, one of the things that when I pulled our CS team and our customer success team and asked them, what are some tips that you want our customers to know? So one of the things was when you actually create a custom court cost, you can go into that date in the future on your admin side and you can test this court cost without even having to create a reservation and save a reservation. So I'm gonna, create a reservation here, but I'm not gonna save it. So if I go in and add a player to this court, they should update accordingly for the pricing that I set for this court type. So I don't remember what that rate was. So if I set it for $13.50 for my hard courts, yep. So it looks like I'm booking this on January 2nd, 2026. You can see that $13.50 rate is applied here. And so I know that that court cost that I set on my custom courts is correct. So that's just one way that you can go in and just kind of preempt the system in order to make sure that once people start booking on January 1st, they're getting the appropriate rate for their reservations. Now, I do know that some clubs have some quite extensive custom court costs. And so if you would like to kind of walk through how to get those updated for 2026 appropriately, since a lot more of those are more complicated setups, I would recommend reaching out to our customer success team, and they can help you with some tips and tricks on setting up those custom costs when you have a more complicated structure. So the next one that I want to touch on is lesson pricing. So with lesson pricing, I have a little bit different of a recommendation. With lesson pricing, I actually recommend setting up different lesson pricings per year. Lesson pricings, you might increase them as of January 1st, and you want to make sure that when your admins are booking lessons or when your pros are booking lessons for players after January 1st, they're getting the correct rate. Now, setting up those 2026 private lessons as their own reservation type, or I'm sorry, as their own lesson type, will give you that flexibility to really set those up ahead of time. And then as of January 1st, your front desk or your pros are going to be booking the correct rate as long as they're selecting the correct lesson type. So as you can see here, I have my 2025 lessons and my 2026 lessons. This is also a good way for you to then get your financial reporting by these lessons as well once you get into 2026 and keep them separated from 2025. So I have all of my lesson types set up. Once you have your 2026 lesson type set up, don't forget to add them to your instructors, because in order to then set the pricing, we have to make sure that the pro qualifies for that lesson type as well. So to do that, you're going to go to your instructor settings row and your instructor pricing. And so then on instructor pricing, you can select your pros individually. You can see I have all of my 2025 lessons here. And then in my 2026 lessons, I've actually already gone in and set the pricing for them. So setting the pricing then across the board for all of these lessons. And now my lessons are ready to book for 2026, and my pros can start getting those lessons on the calendar for that time period. I did want to talk about reoccurring lessons. And again, this scheduling restrictions page right here, this is actually a quick way where you can add pros to specific lesson types that you've added more quickly. So just keep this in mind. If you have a lot of pros, go to that scheduling restrictions page and you can quickly add those pros to more lesson types. So with reoccurring lessons, if you do have reoccurring lessons that are going to be booked into the new year, you have a couple of options. You could go in and edit those reoccurring lessons to stop as of January or December 31st, and then start a new series for those players as of January 1st with a new lesson type so they pick up that new pricing. Just keep in mind that the pricing for reoccurring lessons is going to be based on the lesson that's booked or the date that's booked. So you can actually go in and update based on the entire remaining series, or you can update based on a specific date. So if you went in to edit, let's say you didn't want to lose that reoccurring series, you may want to go in after, as of January 1st and update pricing going forward. But again, I more so recommend keeping those lesson types separate for instructors just so you can keep their books clean and accounting clean and all of your commissions and things like that clean for the new year. All right, so that's and the next thing I wanted to talk about was Book a Pro. So again, if you are creating new lesson types for instructor lessons in 2026, I also recommend taking a look at that Book a Pro scheduler. So as you can see here, I have two Book a Pro schedulers, one set up for 2025 and one set up for 2026. You can actually time these to make sure that they cut off on a specific date. So mine's titled for 2025. If I scroll down to the bottom, you can actually choose what date that these Book a Pro schedulers, similar to your custom schedulers, what date that they're turning off. So I can go in here and I can say, don't allow anybody to see this scheduler past December 31st. And then also don't allow anybody to schedule a lesson on this scheduler past December 31st as well. So make sure if you are using Book a Pro schedulers and you're switching things over to 2026, that you do go and end these schedulers. That will prevent anybody from booking anything in the member portal past the new year or through the new year. And you would want to save those. And then I've created myself a new Book a Pro scheduler for 2026. So my scheduler for 2026 now has all of my 2026 lesson types on it, and it's set up appropriate based on the needs that I have for my pros and my Book a Pro scheduler. And then as you can see, I've chosen to show it based on a specific day. So I did it as of today, so I could show you all what that looks like in the member portal here in a second. And then I'm allowing them to schedule starting like 21 days out. So allowing them to schedule starting December 11th. And that's all kind of based on some of the settings that I did here. So days in advance to show instructor availability, 21 days, time in advance, instructors can be scheduled, stuff like that. So just make sure your dates are all in alignment there. But then once I go into the member portal and I'm looking at my portal here, I've got this Book a Pro Lessons tab. So once you have more than one Book a Pro scheduler created, you're going to get this nice cleaner tab here. And then when players go and click on it, they can get into that 2026 space or the 2025 space. So because I'm in 2026 right now, no lessons can be booked. It's just going to show as unavailable, but then your players can flip back to 2025 if they want to continue booking lessons through the end of the year and then continue to book accordingly. All right, well, that's lessons. I don't see any additional questions coming in, so I'm going to move on to events. So we get a lot of questions about events, like I'm going to be updating my pricing for the new year. How do I go about doing that? So for events, we did release this year a tool that will allow you to mass update your event pricing kind of all in one swoop, or you can pick and choose events that you want to mass update. So as you can see here, I don't have as many events as a lot of our clubs do. I only have 21 events here, but just keep in mind that when you update event pricing, you're updating it from that date forward. So a good practice of a lot of clubs do is they rotate their events, create events based and maybe try and end them by the end of the year. So I want to make sure that really all of my events are ending as of January or December 31st, and then start my new events in the new year based on whatever schedule that I offer, maybe winter sessions, spring sessions, fall sessions, and things like that. Another thing I recommend doing with events is making sure that you're using sessions. Sessions aren't something that I think a lot of clubs are using widely, but I highly recommend it. You can do a lot of things with sessions. I actually posted this on the admin community group not too long ago. Really the biggest difference between categories and sessions and things like and using tags. And the best practice I can recommend for sessions is think of it as a all-encompassing, like so you have your event categories and those limit the specific categories to one category per event. But then if you have a session, you can actually add the session tag to an event. And then in all of the different financial reporting and a lot of the different event details reports and things like that, you can use this session as a filter, and it's going to filter every event that has that session tagged with it. So it's super useful in a lot of your financial reporting. So if you're not using sessions on your events, I highly recommend you start doing that into 2026. It allows you to really group a lot of different event categories together. So maybe you have adult clinics, you have adult leagues, and you have adult socials. And so you could actually add a session tag to all of those categories and all of your different events maybe that are happening in that time period. And you can get a good snapshot in financial reporting of the health and overall the things, the health of how your programming is doing for that time period of the year. So definitely check out sessions. All right, so then that brings me back to pricing here with events. So with events, prior to the release that we did earlier this year for mass updating events, the only way to update events was in real time on the event pricing. So again, if you're ending all of your events in at the end of 2025, you want to create new events for 2026, but let's say the last minute you decided you're going to update all of your pricing. And so you need to go in and you need to work a little bit backwards. Well, then rather having you update 100 events at a time or individually, we've given you a tool here. So if you go into events and mass update down here under the other actions under events, you're going to go to this mass update events page. Now, the mass update events page, we do have plans for it. The necessity of this feature actually came about because of network memberships that we released earlier this year, but we wanted to give clubs away initially here to mass update pricing or mass update visibility of events across the board in one swoop. So what you want to do with mass update events is you have to have at least a start date or an end date in there. But if I wanted to go in here and let's say I realized I set the wrong pricing for some of my drop-in events in 2026, I want to go in and update them. So I could come in here and look for all of my events in 2026 and just start selecting, which events I want to update. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to update my membership fields because in events in CourtReserve, all of the pricing is related and all of the visibility and when an event can start registration and stuff, it's all tied to the membership. So what you would want to do is now if you're adding memberships, this is another good tip. So if you're adding new memberships for 2026, you can actually come into mass update events and you can copy rules from maybe an event that or a membership that you already had existing and then copy them to a new membership that you've set up for 2026. So definitely check that out if you're adding new memberships. We also have a great article that goes over all of the features here. I'm giving you guys a high level as we go through. But then the other thing that you can do with this is you can manually update based on specific membership types. So let's say I, decided again, I want to update all of the pricing for 2026 for all of the events that I've already created. I just want to update that drop-in price though. So I want to take that drop-in price up maybe, $2. So I would update all of my pricing for my drop-ins to be $20. And then let's say I also forgot to make them all public. So if you want to make them all public, you can actually make sure you're hitting specific fields and enabling these fields. And so then I can make sure that I've actually made all of my 2026 events public. So there's a lot of powerful things that you can do here. You can update your pricing. You can actually, choose maybe specific event categories and, just say all of these fields are going to update. So just make sure if you're picking all fields are going to update exactly as they are here. If you're choosing specific fields, you can actually turn on and turn off which features that you're going to update about those events. I get a lot of questions about, oh, can we do a start time from this? Can we update other pieces of events from this? Yes, we do have plans to build out, more features, but more action types using mass update events. But these are the features that we have now. So you can update membership fields again, which is all of the items on this row, and you can actually go in and you can update your guest setup for these events as well, enabling guests and changing your guest rates on all of the events as well. So then if I update all of my pricing here to be drop-in price of $20, let me just mass update that. It's going to tell me which memberships that I'm doing it for, the fields that I'm doing, and then which drop-in field or which fields specifically. And it tells me that I've already selected 3 events. So then after I do that, it's going to show me an audit log of what I did here. And I can click this 3 and it's going to show me all of the events that I affected. And then again, I can go through and I can, just double check and click those events and make sure that those prices did update accordingly. Wow, I jacked that quite up a bit, didn't I? So that's just one way that you can use mass update events to kind of update all of your pricing. Just keep in mind if you are mass updating events for events that are still happening this year, if you go in and mass update an event that is happening tomorrow but still carries into 2026, you're going to change that pricing as of tomorrow. So just make sure that's another reason why you might want to separate your pricing or your, not your pricing, you might want to separate your end dates on events so you have a clean line between the end of 2025, the beginning of 2026. Again, it just makes financial accounting and your cleanup for the year a lot simpler when you have those hard cutoff dates for events. All right, I don't see any questions, so we're at 1:53. I'm going to quickly kind of go through this next piece. We have waivers. So in CourtReserve, you just want to make sure that those waivers are set up prior to your 2026 season starting. So now would be a good time to check with your lawyers, check with your general counsel to make sure that there's no waiver updates that they want to make in the new year. If they do, go ahead and get those waivers submitted immediately, to CourtReserve so players can start signing them if they need to. One of the things I do recommend is creating a different waiver for each year. That way, when you're going back and looking historically at players and the waivers they've signed, those waivers are yearly specific. So it's really easy to see which waivers that the player has. And if you need to pull them for any reason, you can pull the correct one. Another thing with waivers is I want to show people this date right, this setting right here. I don't think it's a very widely used date. The CS team did caution me in showing in talking through this setting, but basically you can set your waiver to be date specific. So if I have a general liability waiver for 2026 and I want to make sure that players are only signing this waiver if they're participating in something in 2026, I can actually set this waiver to be just for the year 2026 with a start date of January 1st, 2026 and ending December 31st of 2026. What does that do? Well, if I have a 2025 waiver also dated for the proper dates of 2025, the player comes in tomorrow, registers for an event, they're going to sign my liability waiver for 2025. But then if they turn around tomorrow and sign up for something a month from now, they're going to be presented with the proper waiver for 2026. So again, it's another way of making sure that players are signing their waivers at the appropriate time for the appropriate events. And then the next thing that you can do here is remember we have the signing rules. So the signing rules determine if the waiver is presented at the time of booking, if it's optional or required, and then upon login. So if you're requiring, and then also we have the agreement period. Sorry, I meant to hit the agreement period, not the waiver presented on. The agreement period is actually a good one to make sure that you're doing, and depending on your business rules, it might just depend on how you want this to work, but we have every calendar year on here. We have every new disclosure version. I always recommend using new disclosure version. That way, if your legal team tells you halfway through the year, hey, we need to add something to the waivers, that way you can add another version of your waiver. And then the next time your players log in, they're going to be prompted to sign that waiver again. So it allows you to create that, have that ongoing maintenance of a waiver throughout the year if you need to. If you have it posted to every calendar year, it's just going to have the players sign them every year. And if there's a new version put in, the player's not going to be prompted to sign it. So just keep that in mind. All right, where am I at? 4 minutes? Cool. Let's talk really quickly. I wanted to go over just something really, really small with the member portal settings. And if we go over a few minutes, everybody's welcome to stick around. I will be here. So one of the things that you can do to prepare your member portal for 2026, and one of the things I always like to do as an admin is to make your member portal, just really easy for players to navigate and figure out what's going on. So as you can see in my portal here, I have actually added a link to the top with my 2025 fall schedule. Well, let's say I wanted to set one of these up for 2026. It's super easy to do using the event filters that we have in your website settings. So you want to go back into your admin side, click on website. Up here on the menu link, up at the top, the menu tab, I have the ability to create a header link. So to do this adult clinics for the fall schedule, I actually added a header link here called adult clinics. And then I created sublinks for these adult clinics. Well, what link did I use to get this? That's a great question. So let's jump over to event filters. If I go over to event filters, I can create myself event filters that allow me to give my players that are looking through my member portal. Hold on, let me just can't talk and type at the same time. Okay, so a custom event or creating event filter just presets a filter. Basically, when I was an admin, I called them preset filters, but it presets a filter on the member portal so that when your players click a schedule here that you've created, the 2025 fall schedule, they're going to see a pre-filtered list of events that I want them to see. So for 2026 spring schedule, what I always did as an admin is I would come in here and I would just call it what I wanted to. I would label it by session. So now it's only going to show my winter events for January and March. Let's call this winter. And then hit save. I'm not going to add any other filters here because I just want to show every event that I have created that's going to be during that time period. And I've already tagged all of my events with those sessions as well. Once you save that filter, you can copy that URL and you can go back over to your website settings. And in that menu, and under adult clinics, you can create, or the menu item that I created, I just created a new sublink. So I'm going to call this one 2026 winter schedule. And I'm going to paste in that URL that I just created from the previous page. So then if I come back over here to my member portal and refresh, now under adult clinics, I'm going to have 2 schedules. So if you haven't unlocked the power of these filtered lists, please go play with them. I presented these at Catalyst a couple months ago, and everybody was just like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that we could actually send a targeted link to people with specific types of events. And you can do a lot more with this too. You can actually filter it down to the events with a specific name, like keywords. So pre-filled search option. So I used to set up all of my summer camps based on an event filter. All my summer camps had summer camp in the name of them. And so I would just do pre-filtered search option summer camp, and I would create an event list filter that had all of my summer camps in them. So when people navigated in my portal, they could clearly see all of my summer camps. So I think we're going to do a kind of summer camp best practices in the spring, but using event filters in 2026 is also a great idea. All right, well, we are right at 2 o'clock. I wanted to hit one more item if anybody's still sticking around to listen to me, but if you don't want to stick around, we are going to post this on YouTube within 24 hours of the webinar being over. I did answer a question on that earlier, but I just want to remind everybody, this will go up on our YouTube channel in about 24 hours. So if you need to jump off, go for it. You can check out the end of it on YouTube later. But the next thing I just want to hit with people is just some of the communications that we offer at CourtReserve to how to communicate with your members in 2026. We already mentioned the emails webinar and marketing webinar that we're doing in December. So that's a great one to learn how to email players in our new bulk email feature that we've created that's coming out soon. But just remember, you've got global announcements. How do I use global announcements? Global announcements are a announcement that you can put out there to your members via desktop or the mobile app, to where it's going to appear on their logged in mobile app view. So once they log into their app on CourtReserve or your branded mobile app, there's actually a row at the top. It's the first row that they see called announcements. So if you have general announcements where you've opened up registration for the fall set or the spring session, you can throw an announcement up there. If leagues are open, go ahead and throw announcements up there. When people are looking at their app, they're going to see that announcements row. And they'll be able to look at the announcements that you've put out at the club. It's another great way to let people know about weather. The courts are closed, you're snowed in, you can't get to the club, what the status is with all of that. So definitely check out global announcements if you're not using it. The next one that I want to hit is actually going to be the text messages and push notifications. So under the notifications tab on your admin side, you have this player and system users. Now, if you haven't already enabled the advanced communication suite, I think from additional, if you go into that stringing, if you go into settings, down here we have additional features. If you're on legacy, this is called add-ons, the legacy pricing subscription model. If you are on our new tier pricing structures as of last year, then it's called additional features. So you actually have these features that are broken up separately. You have push notification alerts and text messages. If you're not using push notification alerts, please go turn them on. We think everybody should be using push notification alerts. And what is a push notification? A push notification is a notification that you can send to players through their CourtReserve app. Now, it's their CourtReserve app or their branded mobile app. Either one, they're going to get that message. So push notifications, once you enable push notifications, they are free to use. Okay, you can send 10,000 push notifications and you won't be charged anything. Okay, so push notifications are a great way to get people notices to their phones. I get them all day long from retailers, so I know that they work. And so you can build a push notification, send it to players, and then also text messages are a great way. Text messages do have an additional cost to them, so just keep that in mind if you're using a lot of text messages. But under text messages and push notifications, again, go back to your settings page. On notifications, you've got your player notifications. Let's talk about texting and push, okay? Go to the push notifications and just Enable all of them because then your player is going to get all of those notices from email and everything that they're getting via email. They're also going to get it to push. Make sure it's active and subscribed. Now, players with the app do have to allow their phone to accept push notifications on that app. So just keep that in mind too. So push notifications are a good way to communicate with players, but they can also turn them off. So they do have to make sure that they're enabled on their side. With text messages, you can also pick and choose. So I used to only use text messages for the really, really important alerts, like to let them know about a cancellation or a weather closure or something like that. So definitely pick and choose which text messages that you're using because there is an associated cost with those once you go over a certain period or a certain amount. But yeah, definitely use those push notifications for marketing and things like that. All right. Well, are there some questions here that we can answer? I kind of got through that notifications piece really quickly. But let's see what we've got, Josh.
Yeah, it looks like we do have some questions here about unsubscribing from those different notification types. So if a player unsubscribes to everything, can I still not send them an email? So I think this may have to do with the notification subscription and then also sort of the difference between receiving notifications and a bulk email and how players may be able to unsubscribe from them.
Okay, cool. So do you want to take this one or do you want me?
Um, yeah, so I can just say that the
Okay.
notification checkboxes are going to have to do with any automated message that is being sent to a player based on some sort of action. So, for example, reservation confirmation, I receive that after I finish booking a reservation. So, if we're unchecking the notification subscription, that won't actually impact my ability to receive a bulk email that's sort of manually sent out from an admin. But with that being said, players do have a way to unsubscribe from marketing emails, which would be any of those bulk emails that we're talking about. So if you went to a player's account near the bottom of that page, let's see here. There is going to be the unsubscribe from my club / organization's emails, alerts, and newsletters. So if they did click this setting here, it would stop them from receiving any notifications and any bulk emails. So
And
just
then
wanted to point those out.
on the
Yeah.
player side, that lives under their personal information. So if I scroll down here, I can unsubscribe from my club's organization emails and newsletters. Again, that's like Josh just said, that's going to only unsubscribe them from these bulk messages. So over here on the left-hand side, if I go to members, I have bulk email, bulk text, and bulk push. That's only going to unsubscribe them from those. They can also actually pick and choose what notifications they want to turn on and off as well. So they can pick and choose if they don't want to receive a confirmation or something. So sometimes when people aren't getting things, we also recommend having the player go look at their notifications table to make sure they haven't turned off a system notification as well. Because they can pick and choose which ones, but they don't usually go in and do it. They're usually unsubscribing from those bulk emails and things like that. That's a great question. All right. Is there a way for players to resubscribe in the future? This has been a problem for us and people come and go from our club. It hinders communications. Yeah, that's a great question. So they can resubscribe to those bulk notifications here in their portal. So you would want to have direct them to the player information, whether it's on their mobile app or it's on the desktop, and they can make sure that they're subscribed. The other thing to do with push notifications is to make sure that the player has enabled them on their device. And so that can be a little bit harder sometimes to walk them through how to do. I think I actually have that's in the push notification article. I think it kind of outlines what to do. But I know I have an Apple device, so I have my iPhone. I have to go to actually the notification section within my iPhone, and I find the CourtReserve app there. And then I can pick which notifications or the notification types that I'm allowing for CourtReserve to my phone. So I would choose, enabling notifications, and then I get all of them. So I get the banner notifications, the sound, and the badges, and all of that. So it kind of depends on what device you're using to make sure that they have those push notifications enabled. And then when they when they initially download the CourtReserve app or they download the branded mobile app, they're going to be asked by the app or they're going to be asked by the device itself if the device wants to accept push notifications from this app. So you're kind of at the mercy of the player to make sure that they hit accept. But I accept them at this point for most of the ones that I communicate with regularly. Right. Are we able to talk about resubscribe them on the member side if they don't have it they don't know how to do it themselves? Oh, I would have to remember this. I believe if they have unsubscribed from marketing emails, Josh, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if they've unsubscribed from marketing emails, you cannot resubscribe them as an admin. Is that correct?
I believe so. I know that is the case with text alerts.
Yeah, with
I
text
can't.
alerts, if they have unsubscribed from the text messages, you cannot resubscribe them. And once they have declined push notifications, I believe that the admin cannot enable them for them again from the admin side. They do have to do that from the device itself. So if you run into any questions with that, just reach out to our support team because there's a lot of different troubleshooting things that we can do with notifications for you as well. All right. Well, everybody, we're at 2:10. Sorry we went over today. 2026 prep, there's just a lot of things that we can cover. So we just wanted to make sure that we provided you guys with the best information that we could just to make sure you're ready for 2026. If you have any questions about anything that we talked about, please reach out to our live chat support team. They'd be happy to take care of you. And we will definitely be posting a recording of this webinar on the YouTube channel in the next 24 hours. So take a look at that if you did not have a chance to join us at the beginning. But we really appreciate you joining. And please sign up for Josh's webinar in December on marketing and emails because it's going to be awesome. All right, everybody, have a great day. Thank you to my panelists and co-hosts. Have a great day, everybody.
Yes. Thanks, everybody. Bye.